I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I am Garnet Amundsen, President of the Friends of McIntosh Veterans. I want to welcome everyone that is watching the Friends of McIntosh Veterans Veteran Day program on your TV. This year we are having a little different program to fit the Veterans Day program. It will be shown on Garden Valley TV, Channel 30 at 1 p.m. and 7 p.m. on Friday, November 11th. It will also be available on Facebook under the Friends of McIntosh Veterans. It is with great gratitude that we are able to give of our time to gather the information for our living veterans. We must never forget our veterans and the careers they had while in the military. That is why our country is free. We sincerely hope you all appreciate the veterans and thank them for their service to our country. May God bless each and every veteran on this Veterans Day.
Veterans Day is a time to honor all the brave men and women among us who, at one time or another, put on the uniform and served to protect our country, our liberty, and our lives. For those who never served in the military, it is impossible to understand the sacrifices that have been made for all Americans by those few brave ones, the time spent away from family or personal pursuits, The physical toll of training and fighting, the scars that remain when the battle is over. Every citizen owes a debt that can never be repaid, a debt to every veteran for the service and our freedom. And while we can never truly understand their sacrifice or repay their service, we can honor them, be thankful for them, and remember them. Not a day goes by that American citizens should forget the price that has been paid by our veterans. But on Veterans Day, we pause to make sure we are thankful for each and every man and woman who wore the uniform. For so many, those veterans are sons and daughters, siblings, parents, grandparents, relatives, or friends. Sadly, others are homeless or struggling. On Veterans Day, we remember them all, and we express our gratitude for what they have done. We are also thankful to have them with us, whether or not we know them personally. Soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and Guardsmen, we are thankful to them all for their service. Veterans Day is their day. Make sure you take time this Veterans Day to do something special for a veteran. Tell them thank you, attend a parade or ceremony, volunteer or donate to a veterans organization, or perform a random act of kindness to let a veteran know that they are not forgotten and neither is their service. To all the heroes who have served our country, we thank you and honor you on this Veterans Day. Thank you for all your sacrifices and for fighting for our freedom.
Here we go. Okay, it's November 1st, 2022, and we're visiting with Jimmy Wordish from McIntosh, who honorably served in the U.S. Navy in Vietnam. So, Jimmy, what thoughts or feelings did you have when you got on that plane, when you were shipped out to the West Coast?
Well, actually, we were stationed in Jacksonville, Florida, at Mayport Naval Air Station. And I was on a destroyer, and we left from there. On the Atlantic side, we went through, we stopped and put fuel on in Cuba at Guantanamo, which very few Americans have ever visited Cuba.
Yeah.
So, and then we went on through the Panama Canal and west. You know, it took several days across the big Pacific Ocean. And then we stopped in Hawaii for about 3 days to refuel again and take on food stores, because 252 guys on the ship, you know, and a ship runs 24/7. There's no stopping. So, and one thing I noticed on the way over, there was no moon, and at night it is incredibly black out on the ocean, especially at midnight, because the sun is on the other side of the earth, and you can't see anything. You can be out on the main deck for an hour and you cannot see anything because it's that black. But you see every star in the sky. It's really, really fun. And the quartermasters, that they wanted to navigate with a sextant, you know, shoot the sunrise right at sunrise and then the stars and figure their position. And you could see stars that you don't see here because it is so black. I mean, the sky is lit up with stars. That was really interesting. But then we went from Hawaii, we went to the Philippines. Subic Bay is a big Navy base, and Clark Air Force Base is not far from there. That got destroyed in a volcano of eruption at Mount Pinatubo. I think that was in 1995. And but anyway, Subic Bay is still there. It's in the Philippines, and you get a real taste of, I don't know how they survive in the Philippines, but there's really no economy, you know. And then from there, we stopped in Taiwan, and the Navy we took on more fuel there, and from there, if I got it straight, that was we left in January, end of January. So this is by the time it's in early May very hot. I mean, very hot. And but we first started following the aircraft carriers, and we picked up. They lost this. Let's see, that was the Oriskany. It's now a sunken reef off of Florida, but they lost, I think it was 17 planes in the month of July. I mean, they came back crippled. Their landing gear was maybe not functioning, or they crashed before they got to the carrier, and we picked up, I'd say, a half a dozen pilots out of the drink. And you have never seen happier guys when we lifted them on board. They were glad we were there, but the aircraft carriers always had helicopters flying, and they took them right back to the carrier right away from our ship. And then that towards the end of July is when we did a lot of shelling on shore. And we went up some river mouths there too. I mean, we were close to land. I mean, we kicked up some spare tires and stuff, beer cans. I mean, I thought we were that shallow. We probably weren't, but it seemed like we were right on shore at times. And incredibly hot. But out on the ocean there, it was just day after day of absolutely glassy. The water there was no ripples on it. It was so hot. I think the water temperature was over 100. That's hot, because our compartment where we slept was below the water line, and it was warm. We had air conditioning, but it really couldn't keep up. No, that was hot. And we were there when the forest stall caught on fire, and John McCain barely escaped from that and burnt up. And that's the biggest loss the Navy had in one day. 134 guys were killed in that. And we thought it was going to sink, but they got the fire out, and that was right at the end of July. And then we went to Hong Kong. That was fun in Hong Kong. That was a lot of fun there. I mean, it's really built up now. I see, this is 55 years ago. I can't believe I'm this old, but that's a long time ago. Hong Kong now is completely different. The whole harbor was full of, the junks. They're small boats made out of bamboo. And I mean, you could walk from one to the other for, I bet you, a mile. There was people selling stuff, but we had our own spot there. We got the whole ship painted by I don't know if it was their kind of police force. It seemed like they were really organized, and they had these specially colored vans. They painted the whole ship in a couple days. It was like a couple hundred people painting, and they used silk. They dipped the silk in the paint, and it went on so smooth, it looked like it had been spray painted. But they painted everything. The wire harnesses, they were that big inside of the ship in the passageways. And they painted the whole inside and outside in about 3 days. And they did a good job.
So tell me more about life on the ship. Are all of the meals eaten together? What were the meals like? What would you do when you weren't working?
The food was excellent. When I got drafted in 1965, October 19th, I weighed 147 pounds. I mean, when I got out, I weighed 170. I gained that much because the food was excellent. And when we were over there, a lot of our food came from Australia. We ate a lot of rabbit, and I mean, a lot of lamb. I mean, it was good food. You could have steak for breakfast. I mean, that was, there was no such thing as starving. In fact, the Army always made fun of us, that you guys ate way too good, Well, that's just the way the Navy, on a ship, it's 24/7. It never stops. So you worked in 8-hour shifts. You were on for 8 hours and off for 16. So you went around, you know, the clock. You'd work some. I steered the ship a lot. That was a lot of fun. That's the biggest boat, not a boat, a ship. I've run a lot of outboard motors and wore out a lot of outboard motors in my life, but that was fun. It was, you steered by a compass, and there was one guy from California. His name was Rick George. He was better than I was. I don't know. That guy was incredibly smart, but he always got the job of when we refueled. You were alongside another tanker, not that far away, and you had to hold the course really steady, and he could do it a little better than I could. So he got, well, I didn't really want the job because that was something that you couldn't make a mistake. So he steered the ship when we took on fuel, and Rick he was a fun guy. He was from California. Yeah.
So what was your specialty area? What was your job title?
Well, I wanted to be a gunner's mate, but there was a trick to that. I had to extend. I wanted to put in my 2 years. I didn't want to do any more than that. But I was in the gun mount for all the firing we did. I mean, it's funny, I can hear anything. We had no hearing protection, and it was so loud that my teeth would hurt. I mean, amazing. Nobody had hearing protection. And those 5-inch guns they'd shoot 9 miles accurately. And I think officially we fired 1,045 rounds.
And what were your targets?
Well, we sank some fuel barges. They were trying to sneak fuel. The North Vietnamese were trying to sneak fuel along the coast. And I know we sank a couple of those. And when we hit them, it lit up the night sky because great big explosion. That's 2 that we sank. And we shot down, they had a radar site. It was inland a ways, and that's when we got real close to shore, and we couldn't tell if we hit it because it was so far away, and we couldn't see. Those gun mounts are completely sealed. You can't. Let's see, they're double barrels, so there's 2, 4, 6. I think there's 8. There was 8 of us in that gun, really crowded, you know, and they when the guns went off, it was both barrels at the same time. It was incredibly loud. But we what else did we hit? I'd have to, because we never saw anything except one time we had this dud round, and I was actually, when the powder cans were about almost 3 feet long, and then the projectile was about that long, 5 inches, weighed about 65 pounds. We had a dud. And one of the guys, he just handed it to me. He said, "Here, we're just get rid of this, throw it overboard." And I go, I couldn't even talk. Get rid of it. I jumped down. They opened the hatch in the back, and I jumped down on it. I almost dropped it because it was heavy. And I remember throwing it overboard, and I thought, if this thing goes off, that's the last thing I'll remember. But I threw it overboard, and I just watched it go tumbling down. The water was pretty clear. And then when I looked up, and they were shooting back at us, there was splashes all over, and I said, I better get out of here. I'm gonna, it was. But when they handed that to me, and the thing, 65 pounds is pretty heavy. I thought it was a feather because I was so scared that it was going to go off. I didn't realize I had it, and when I threw it overboard, I just didn't throw it in. I pitched it, and it went quite a ways out there because I was just deathly afraid of getting blown up, and I threw it overboard, but it never went off. It just sank.
Had they tried firing it? And that's how
it was.
It was
Yep,
a dud?
yep. It was they knew it was something wrong with the fuse on it. They have a fuse that gets set. So, that was.
So you didn't become a gunner's mate.
No.
So then what was
Well,
your specialty during most of the time?
I was actually in the first division, and the first division is the one that handles all the on the main deck. When we tied the ship up, and we did all the maintenance on the main deck. So that's called the first division. Actually, a boatswain's mate. That's our boss was he was a well, 3 stripes is a first class, and the next one up is a chief. Well, our chief was a first class boatswain's mate, and he was from the south. I don't know if you remember Hughes Knight.
Yep.
He talked exactly like Hughes Knight. I mean, he was from Louisiana too. So this guy is slow motion guy, but good. That was my boss. He good guy, and but I worked in every round we fired, and I was either in the magazine, which was below the gun mount, which the gun mount turned, hydraulic. There was hydraulic motors, and incredibly noisy. The lines were probably 2 inches. When that hydraulic fluid was running through it just squealed. When the ship, because say the ship is going like this, rocking like this, back and forth, and up and down like this, the gun barrels actually stayed stationary because they were on the target, so the ship was moving, but the barrel sat still. And to do that, it takes a lot of, there was a lot of hydraulic noise. That was, when we got out of there, I go, well, thankful for that, because it was about 3 weeks of that. That was.
So looking back, how did the time that you spent in the Navy change you?
Well, in my high school annual, it says if he would talk more, we would know him better. Apparently, I didn't have much to say when I was in high school. But when I got out of the Navy, I couldn't shut up. But here's what I think happened, and this has happened to other people. We were up for 3 days. We didn't get any sleep for 72 hours. I mean, everybody was so exhausted. And they claim, I've seen now, some psychiatrist said that in fact, it will change your personality. I think that's what happened to me. I didn't have much to say to anybody, and when I got out of the Navy, I was afraid to talk to people. Now I'll go up to, I don't care who they are, and start up a conversation. I mean, I think that's what happened from no sleep for 3 days.
That is interesting.
I don't know if it affected anybody else that way, or, that's. I don't know if it was a good thing or not.
I think so.
Yeah.
So before you came back stateside, did they prepare you for what it was going to be like?
Well, and this was in 1967. We got back to San Francisco in probably the 1st of October. And that's when the big hippie thing hit San Francisco. In fact, we had our uniforms on, and we went down to Haight-Ashbury right on, I've got a picture at home of the street sign. But I'm telling you, did we get rough treatment there? They spit on us, threw rocks at us, cussed us out because we had our uniforms on, and we were a big bunch of guys. So they didn't, there was no physical. They weren't going to do anything physically because we were all, there was probably 20 of us in a group, and we had some big guys. They didn't do anything physically, but they sure browbeat us, when we came, we were out in the ocean quite a ways out, and we had the San Francisco, the Golden Gate Bridge is very big. We had it on radar, and we could see the bridge the first thing, because I was on watch midnight to 4 a.m. And we were standing by the big radar scope. It was probably this big, and guys could stand around and watch the radar going around, and then it would ping when it hit the bridge. The bridge was coming, we were all waiting to see the bridge, because now we're back in the USA, and we all stood, the whole works was around, even the captain was up. Yeah, he was standing there looking, and I looked, I'll never forget this. I'd look at their faces, and their faces were green because that light was green, and all the guys were just staring. It's just speechless. It was just silent, just waiting to get a glimpse of. And then there it is. There we could see it. We got close enough so the radar picked it up, and then the next sweep around, there was a little more. Pretty soon, and now we can see the whole thing. That was a big deal, seeing the bridge. Well, when we got there, it was daylight, and apparently they knew we were coming, because the first ship, they poured red paint on the guys off the bridge, a 5-gallon bucket of red oil-based paint. And when you come into port, Navy, they're pretty. I mean, you line up in your dress whites all around the ship, both sides, starboard and port, all the way around to the fantail, which is the back of the ship. And they didn't get us. We got through there before they got armed again. But the ship before us was the Forest Royal, 872, and we were 865. But the guys, they were mad. It kind of was a mist, because it's a long ways down, so that it misted, got everybody. That red paint, that was. And we looked at each other when we were on the street, the guys, they go, "What happened while we were gone? Things are really bad here." Of course, one guy said, he was from the East Coast, and he says, "Well, this is California. Anything goes there in California." I mean, it was kind of a shock.
Had
So,
you been gone for 2 years?
No, one. We were there. Well, I was in for 2. Spent the whole first year getting ready to go, basically. We did all these maneuvers out in the Atlantic, and actually I got on the ship in the Mediterranean, near Naples, Italy. And then we came back from there, and then we had several little jaunts. We did go back to the Azore Islands, which is off of Portugal, and back again. And then we spent that kind of fall of 66 getting ready to go in January of 67. So.
You were recently selected to participate in an honor flight. Tell us about that experience.
That was something. I signed up. I think Les Goodwin got me it's quite a while ago. So I've been on that, but I knew they were taking World War II guys, because the World War II guys, like our dear friend Clifford, and Reuben Brecky, a lot of those guys were getting up there in age. They went, but now the World War II, we don't have. I think Blanchard Crokstead from Winger is our only World War II guy left, if I'm not mistaken, and he's 100, 101. So we've run out of World War II guys. So this time, there was probably, out of the 112, probably 20 Korea guys, and the rest were Vietnam. Russell Reichenbach from Boston, I've known him. I'm 6 months older than he is. I've known him since we were in high school. And then Dwayne Mickeljord went too, and Dwayne is 83, and Dwayne has Parkinson's, but he made it. I mean, he's pretty slow, but he had a good time too. And then there was Drew Larson, I know, from Crookston. He was along, and several guys.
Craig Bruce-Lee.
Craig Bursley, yeah, Craig went. Craig, he too just shook his head. He said, "Boy, this is ultra organized," and it was a lot of fun. Washington it's 10 square miles. It's around it, it's 100 square miles, and there's so much granite in that city that the World War II memorial is the most impressive. That's huge, and it's pretty new. It was built in 2004, so that's the most impressive one. But the Korea one is the kind of the most haunting. They've got the soldiers out walking in, and they're dressed in winter for winter, and the looks on their faces. The guys that molded that, they could capture the look. I'm telling you, it's just scary. You look at their faces, and you can just see the agony in their faces. That was Korea one was something. And then the Vietnam Wall, I've seen it twice set up here, but the real one that's the real one. I mean, it's
Did you know anybody?
two. One of my classmates, Curtis Hendrickson, he quit school and joined the Army first, got out, and then joined the Navy. I think that's how he went. He was killed over there. Then Howard Crossan, married to Sharon Crossan. His brother Richard, he was my brother's age, 2 years younger than me. He was over there just for a few days and was killed. So I found both of them on the wall. And then I had 7 guys off my ship too that were killed over there that got transferred. None of them made it home. All 7 of them.
Where had they transferred to?
Well,
Another
they
ship?
went to river boats. They went off on my ship. That was it. My brother wound up on a riverboat. He was put in 3 tours, and he said, I can't even get him to talk about that. He doesn't want to. That was.
Did they require you to? And you were just got lucky. You didn't have to do that. Your
Well,
number didn't
see,
get called. Or?
we had a lot of small boat training. That's why those guys got transferred over there, and they wound up on those boats because we had a they called it the captain's gig. It was a little whaling boat, and that was when we anchored in a port where we weren't tied up to a pier. We had to take the captain and the executive officer, that was his second in command. They'd go to shore. Well, that was our job to take them, and I ran that little whale boat. It wasn't so little either. I mean, it was a heavy diesel engine in it, and we'd take them to shore back and forth with that. Well, if you were on call, let's say, that was your job. Well, all the guys, some of those guys that were sent over there and never made it back, they did the same thing. But they were all, I was just an E3. I didn't make E4 because I got out. I would have had to extend it. No, I want to go back to Minnesota. So those guys were all E3. They were E3s that got sent over there, those 7. So that was a sad deal because they were well-liked guys,
So tell me about coming back from the honor flight.
Oh, that was, we got back to Grand Forks and they never said anything on the way back really, except we were going to land at about 7 o'clock. And we landed and we were getting, we got all our stuff off, and I wondered, why is it going so slow? And what's all that noise? I go, what's all this clapping? And then it had died down. Then it is again. Well, then I finally, and knowing me, I was in the back talking to a couple guys, so I was about the last one, can't shut up, I tried to talk to all 112 of them and find out, something about each guy, Well, here I am in the back, and then finally it's our turn. We get up there. Here there's 2,000 people. They all had little American flags, and I stepped out in there and I just go, "Guys, look at all the people." And they were it was like they were at the Super Bowl. I mean, I went down there slapping people's hands all the way down. And then that was on the top floor. Then you went down the escalator. Well, before I got to the escalator, there was a Red River Valley motorcycle guy. He had his leather jacket on. and they donated 100,000 to us. The biggest donators were the Red River Valley Motorcycle. And I just said, are you in the motorcycle club? And he goes, yes. He said, yes, sir. He didn't have to say sir. Anyway, he was a big guy. I bet he weighed 250. I put my arms around him. I picked him right off the floor. I lifted him right up. And when I sat him down, he had tears in his eyes, and so did I. I mean, all the guys, we got downstairs, and their tears are running down their faces. I mean, after that California deal, it was really, the guys could not believe it. I looked at their faces, and there was guys tough guys, that tears just ran down their face. That was, on the way home, Russell and I, we looked at each other and said, can you believe that, Russell? And Russell, he's a man of few words. He goes, I'll never forget this as long as I live. I go, God, I'm never forgetting this one. And I know all those other guys felt the same way. But when we got home, that was something. The guys, I couldn't believe that it was. I said I was looking at the crowd, and it was unbelievable the amount of people there were. I know there was 2,000 people, and it was just a big party, So that was really something.
So for those of us who haven't served our country, this is for the Veterans Day program that will be airing on Garden Valley. What would you like people to know about from somebody who did serve our country?
Well, the guys and any of them that have been in, and I know they'll all tell you that the camaraderie, it builds. The guys you're with, you won't let them down, and they know, and you know that they won't let you down. It is the best guys. I don't care. We had Filipinos, we had Spanish, we had blacks from Chicago, we had blacks from New York, we had them from the South. This Zeke Turner, he was a cotton farmer from, I think, Tupelo, Mississippi. Super guys. They're all, you don't even they're all one. You're one bunch of guys that are doing the job.